Welcome to D2G Global News. Just days after U.S. President Donald Trump announced new tariffs, Vietnam surrendered on Friday, April 4th, and offered the U.S. a reduction in tariffs to 0% during a phone call between Mr. Trump and General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam, Tu Lam. Is this a humiliation for Vietnam or a clever move by Hanoi? Let's find out right now. 1. Is Trump retaliating against Vietnam? The U.S. president said that Mr. Tu Lam stated that Vietnam wants to reduce tariffs to 0% if an agreement can be reached with the U.S. Trump also expressed his thanks on behalf of the United States and said he looked forward to a meeting in the near future. Just had a very effective call with Mr. Tu Lam, the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam, who told me that Vietnam wants to reduce tariffs to 0 if a deal is made with the United States. I thanked him on behalf of our country and said I look forward to seeing him in the not-too-distant future, Trump wrote on social media. Earlier in the day, the Vietnamese government said it had proposed that the U.S. postpone the application of the 46% retaliatory tariff on goods imported from Vietnam for 1 to 3 months to allow time for negotiations. The government also said that Vietnam would take steps to import more goods from the U.S., including aircraft and liquefied natural gas, and would facilitate U.S. companies investing in Vietnam. Trump launched his Liberation Day on April 2nd, telling a crowd that April 2nd, 2025 will go down as a day long remembered for the rebirth of American manufacturing, and asserted that for decades, the U.S. had been plundered, ravaged, and outright robbed by foreign countries. The U.S. president announced the imposition of a 46% tariff on goods, effective immediately. Despite calling it a reciprocal tariff, Trump acknowledged that the figure was only about half of the tariffs that other countries had been applying to the U.S. We're going to be putting on tariffs at roughly half of what they've been charging us, he said. 2. Why is Trump determined to take down Vietnam? Here's the main reason. Vietnam's rise as a trade hub. Vietnam has seen significant growth as an export-oriented economy and has an increasing trade surplus with the U.S., making it a potential target for protectionist measures. Annually, Vietnam exports over $120 billion worth of goods to the U.S., accounting for more than a quarter of its economy. Notably, since previous U.S. tariffs were implemented, Vietnam's exports to the U.S. have nearly quintupled, leading to significant economic growth and job creation in Vietnam. Vietnam's trade surplus with the U.S. reached a record high of $123.5 billion in 2024. Vietnam's success in attracting manufacturing operations, partly due to companies seeking to avoid tariffs on Chinese goods during Trump's first term, has ironically placed it in the crosshairs during his second term, with the aim of stopping the transshipment of goods. The rapid growth of Vietnam's exports to the U.S., especially after the U.S.-China trade tensions, has likely raised concerns within the Trump administration about potential tariff evasion and the growing trade deficit, leading to the imposition of these new tariffs. The administration may view Vietnam's growth as coming at the expense of American manufacturing. 3. Is Vietnam surrendering when Tu Lam expresses desire to reduce tariffs to 0% on U.S. goods? It is not possible to conclude that Vietnam has surrendered to the U.S. Instead, the above actions demonstrate a wise and proactive strategic response, focused on using diplomatic tools, putting forward specific proposals to resolve the issue, and simultaneously building a more solid economic foundation for the future. This is a pragmatic approach to dealing with a difficult situation, aimed at protecting Vietnam's interests in the context of imbalanced economic power. Vietnam is taking these steps for many strategic reasons, primarily to minimize the negative impact of U.S. retaliatory tariffs and protect national economic interests. Here are the main reasons and the benefits that Vietnam can achieve. Reasons why Vietnam is taking these actions. Preventing or reducing tariffs. The primary goal is to persuade the U.S. not to apply the 46% tariff or to reduce the tariff to a lower level. Such a high tariff would cause serious damage to Vietnam's key export industries, affecting economic growth and employment. Maintaining trade relations with the U.S. The U.S. is one of Vietnam's largest and most important export markets. Maintaining stable and favorable trade relations with the U.S. is crucial for Vietnam's economic development. Addressing U.S. concerns. Actions such as proposing tariff reductions, increasing imports of U.S. goods, and facilitating U.S. investment are direct efforts to address the issues raised by the U.S., especially the trade deficit and the demand for reciprocity in trade. Demonstrating goodwill and a spirit of cooperation. Proactively making proposals and concessions shows that Vietnam is a responsible trading partner and is willing to cooperate to resolve issues peacefully through dialogue and negotiation. Leveraging the advantage of diplomacy. In the context of Vietnam having limited leverage for trade retaliation, diplomacy becomes the most important tool to protect national interests. Building trust and mutual understanding. High-level phone calls and other diplomatic channels help strengthen understanding between the leaders of the two countries, creating more favorable conditions for resolving disputes. Preparing for worst-case scenarios. While seeking to avoid tariffs, Vietnam is also preparing for worse situations by diversifying its export markets and strengthening the competitiveness of its domestic industries. Benefits Vietnam can achieve. Avoiding or significantly reducing tariffs. This is the biggest benefit. If Vietnam's efforts are successful, export businesses will avoid the burden of the 46% tariff, maintain their competitiveness, and continue to contribute to economic growth. Maintaining and developing the U.S. market. Maintaining a strong foothold in the U.S. market will ensure a stable source of foreign currency earnings, create jobs, and promote the development of many related industries. Attracting foreign investments with the U.S., goodwill gestures and a spirit of cooperation can help build a more sustainable and reliable long-term trade relationship. Enhancing international standing. A wise and proactive response in a difficult situation can enhance Vietnam's reputation and standing in the international arena, affirming its role as a reliable trading partner. Strengthening the resilience of the economy. Long-term strategies such as market diversification and enhancing domestic competitiveness will help Vietnam's economy become stronger and less vulnerable to global trade fluctuations. In summary, Vietnam's actions are a multifaceted strategic response aimed at maximizing benefits and minimizing risks in the context of trade tensions with the U.S. Although not guaranteeing complete avoidance of tariffs, these efforts demonstrate Vietnam's proactivity, flexibility, and determination to protect its national interests. What are your thoughts on Vietnam's strategy? Let's wait for Vietnam's next moves and the effectiveness of this strategy. Is Vietnam surrendering, or is it truly a clever move? Leave your comments below. Thank you for watching the entire video.